Because knowledge is power. The only reason you guys are here at this university, I should imagine, is you want to get some power through the knowledge. Isn't that the point, or is that too naked a truth? We're here because we want to become altruistic. The guy said to me at a public hearing once, he said, "What was your motivation?" I said, "To make money." He said, "You can't be serious." Canadian, right? You can't. I said, "Look, man, I've got 350 employees I got to pay on Friday. You can't be serious by questioning my motive." This was a public hearing. This was some guy who never created a job in his life. He got out of college. He did a lot of legislation as a lawyer. He then left the legislation and went back into regulation to take you through the regulation to get you out of trouble. That's the game in Ottawa. To a certain extent, lesser again. In other words, you write the legislation. If you've got a 200-page of legislation and you've got one line to get you off the hook, that's worth a few $1 million in a big company, right? Big law firm. To put it mildly. If I'm elected tomorrow morning, and you're my committee, and I say, "Gentlemen, I will give this guy, you've got $5 million a year for helicopter service, 20 years. You can go down to the bank, you can show them the slip that the government has given you 20 years at $5 million, which is $100 million, and you can take the rest of these guys and hire them, right? Because all you got to do is rent a hangar, make 2 phone calls in New York, and lease 25 helicopters, and you're in business, right? I have created $25 million. See, the minute you are elected and you're the head of the government, you have the power to create money by using your authority. Now, mind you, you increase the debt at the same time. But as Joey Smallwood once said to me, "I hope I'm dead before they find out." He said it humorously, because that's the way it is. We create all of these big projects. If you create a regulation, you create regulators. The GTS tax created dozens and dozens of additional people. If you create a regulation, you create regulators. If you create a regulator, you create an empire, because you have to have buildings to put the regulators in, right? Now go to Ottawa and look at the empires. All these great, big, huge buildings. Go in at 11:30 and try to find somebody except the cafeteria. I did. For 2 hours, I'm trying to find someone to step a passport. From 11:04, I got it all on tape. Wandering through the corridors of empty bureaucracies in Toronto. Because if I want to go, I may as well make a movie out of it. It's a question, really, of having a group of, and that's what happens in life. We hang out with little groups who have the same basic things in common. But because you're entrepreneurial, that means that you're interested in creating your own service. And there's millions of dollars. You know, last year alone, there was over $10 million in grants that weren't even asked for. I mean, I met people in the Himalayas who were investigating the sex life of the ant, and they had a 4-year grant. I mean, I'm serious. I know it sounds ridiculous, right? But they had $80,000, $90,000. The Ford Institute gives away millions. The Hughes Institute, millions. All you've got to do is come together as a group and figure out how to get through the strange language that they use to ask you to get money. It's all there. I mean, right now, I don't know how many of you are freshmen. It doesn't make any difference whether you're freshmen, sophomores, juniors, or seniors. If you come together with a group, at least you'll have the experience of trying to get money from the government for a project that's going to create jobs. I mean, we offered to make a series of tapes on how to get grants, and the bureaucracy wasn't interested. They don't want to make it easy for you. It's ridiculous that we don't have videotapes that you can, like they do in Japan. I watch little kids 6 years old in Japan with their videos, all at different speeds, because some kids were fantastically ahead. Other kids were a little slower. Other kids were more philosophical, and they all had their little discs. When I asked the school teacher in the United States, when I sat through, they asked you to, if your child's going to school in the United States, they ask you, every parent, to sit through a full day. And I did. And I said, "Why haven't they got videotapes?" "Oh," she said, "it doesn't develop the brain properly." I know. I know. Nobody wants to let go. is neophobia. We can't move to the next place. We can't realize that in the computer I'm just putting in, I have 16 million alternatives in color. I mean, it's mind-boggling. I mean, it's unbelievable as we start to get ready to reach 200 and 300 million people, right? And what we can do with that by not only just selling products and good products and doing a thorough, positive thing in service and free enterprise, but also just to make each other aware of each other. Would anybody in this room like to come up and talk for a minute on something, and we can put them on tape? You know, I mean, we're here together tonight, and there's 40 of us just about. And if there's anybody who'd like to, how long have I been up here?
37 minutes.
How long? 37 minutes. Well, that's long enough, unless you got questions. So okay.
Do we have to go to the microphone, or can we?
It's better if you go to the mic, because we're putting on tape, and we got to. You know, it's fun to have the.
The question basically sort of comes from what you've been saying here earlier tonight, which is you referred to a lot of the entrepreneurs, the fear of change, the whole process of what we need to do by sort of almost catching the vision. All right, so creating a vision and going after it. And what I'm finding really difficult to pull together is the idea of creating the vision and then putting some action behind the vision. You know, there seems to be a lot of rhetoric going on now about the entrepreneur. Now we have to have the entrepreneur. We can't have the business person. All right. So now we create all this, and where do we go with the entrepreneur? We go to WCOA. We go to government assistance agencies to create free enterprise. And it just seems that we never really get to the idea of, if you want to be an entrepreneur and you have a vision, what's the action you have to take in order to make it happen?
Well, the first thing you don't have to, the first thing is you have to have specifically the project. You're going to either, and you've got to have a realistic project. It's no good to have a project, as Harry Steele found out, you can start a daily paper. It ain't going to happen. It takes 12 to 14 years to establish the habit pattern in a soap. If you take Young and the Restless when I started, and you see this, the audience was 14,000, now it's close to 150,000, 14 to 84, 18 to 49, because it's a 12-year, it took me 7 years in Quebec, in Montreal. I put the first English FM station in the entire province of Quebec on. For 5 years, I was the only guy. Why? Because there wasn't enough sets. I did it here for 9 years, and nobody wanted to come in because there wasn't enough sets. Because until there's enough sets, you've got to be, it's like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg, right? Well, if you have the right project, and you come to us, you come to me, and say, look, Geoff, this is a hell of an idea I've got. With $5,000 advertising, I can make this happen. At least I can test it. Well, I haven't had a single Newfoundlander ever come to me yet with that suggestion. If they asked me for $100,000 and it was a big enough project and they had it right and go ahead with it, sure, why not? But my God, man, I've been hanging in here for a while in Newfoundland as a Newfoundlander, trying to stimulate these kind of things. I end up myself with a camera and a camera crew doing these things. Well, I haven't had many guys come up to me and say, Geoff, I'd like to hang out with you for a day and learn how to do this particular project. Will you raft with me how to do this and put it together? Not once. My entire life. I haven't had a single person.
You know why?
You know? Pardon?
You know why?
I don't know why.
Because people are intimidated.
Intimidated. Well, they're never going to be free enterprises. That's a very important point, that we do have, he'll never amount to anybody, he's cracked by, he's eccentric, he's whatever, because they want to make sure that by saying that they're not. But that's why he said, don't throw your pearls before swine. Who needs to let the negative side know your thought processes? You do it. My dad didn't know until the Newfoundland Herald was on the streets for sale that I was even thinking about starting it. Let alone NTV or a CJO. I never had a clue. I just got it all together and then did it. because I don't share. I mean, you don't waste your time with negativity or negative people, and it's difficult because it's become a Ray Guy said he's all the most. He said something like, "It's positive to be negative," you know. I mean, I don't know where that is, but wherever it is, it's not in the same room with me. We can't. I mean, listen to Rex Murphy. Is that the raps you want to hear from the government station attacking the biggest companies in the world, like a beer company, saying it's tasteless and gutless? So the taxpayers putting this guy on so he can destroy a private company, public company that's paying the taxes that makes that possible. Nobody seems to see these contradictions. Nobody seems to get passionate about many things. What have we got to do in this country to get passionate? Carve it up, have a simple. If we announced tomorrow that we had a maximum tax of 10%, and we brought in the 1,000 top families from South Africa and from Hong Kong with $1 billion each, we would have full employment within 12 months, 24 months. If 2 men can create 250,000 jobs, known as the Amway, how much easier with 5 major airports? I mean, the potential is unlimited in statistical location, but this is a political decision that people have to make. And I'm not suggesting a negative thing to Canada. I think Canada's a fantastic country, but it's got to stop its negativity. It's got to stop. It's anti-hero, anti-free enterprise. ACOA grants against a competitor in the same town and wipe the other guy out. I mean, that's stupidity. But you happen to be a good buddy of the political. The game has got to be broken open. It's over. All this hide, I mean, this is why the Kennedy thing is coming apart. It's over. The cover-ups are over. It may take another 5 years till we find out that who brought him down there, and they brought him down and just nailed him, right? They want to show it. Could have poisoned him like they did in the 16th century. Easier to poison guys. But not if we want to blow you away and teach you a lesson. I have nothing else to say.
I'd certainly like to thank Mr. Stirling for his presentation tonight. And on behalf of the Memorial University Entrepreneur Society, we wanted to present you with a little token of our appreciation.
Thank
Just
you.
for dropping by today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Well, I've enjoyed it. First time I was ever invited in my entire life to come to Memorial.
Well, it's been our sincere pleasure.
So I came.